Balake. Where is Balake at?
My name's Blake.
Do you want to go to war, Balake? I'm for real. Ron.
Run is right here, everyone. Welcome back for more SPTV, where every day is a great day not to be in a cult. Guys, we got more Linkin Park stuff to discuss. Is Mike Shinoda a Scientologist? God, I hope I'm saying his name right. Mike Shinoda. Yeah, that's how you say it. Is Mike Shinoda a Scientologist? Linkin Park and the Scientology controversy with Emily Armstrong, second-generation Scientologist, Danny Masterson, second-generation Scientologist. Obviously, the question has been raised. How could a band with so much money behind it not think that hiring on a new lead vocalist with such close ties to Scientology, knowing what Scientology supports, knowing Scientology's policies of destroying families and covering up for SA, including child SA, knowing that Emily had been a longtime friend and supporter of Danny Masterson, how could the band possibly do this if there weren't Scientology influences at work behind the scenes? It's an excellent question. Now, last night, Serge Delmar, who you guys all know, was at the Linkin Park show. He met up with Chester Bennington's son, Jamie, at the show, had a chance to spend a bunch of time with him. Serge was also involved early, when he was still in Scientology, in training Scientology auditors whose job it was to go out and privately deliver to celebrities. And that Scientology's policy of just shouting from the rooftops who its new celebrity members are way in the past. Now, you're never going to hear me say in a video that I believe Mike Shinoda is a Scientologist, because I don't have any evidence about that. But because the question is being asked, let's at least have a discussion about it. Even if he's not a Scientologist, the fact that a Scientologist is now a part of the band, the fact that in any Linkin Park forums, you are no longer allowed to say a critical word about Scientology is chilling and very concerning. Let's not forget, Scientology has a policy of blaming and shaming victims of child SA, victims of any crimes, but even child SA. If a child is a victim of SA in Scientology, in their auditing sessions, their Scientology auditing sessions, they are forced to admit what their responsibility was, what their causation was, what they did in their own life or previous lives that caused this to happen to them. This is not fringe Scientology beliefs and behavior. This is core Scientology beliefs and behavior. Scientologists are also firmly against anyone getting any mental health treatment. Scientologists are not allowed to ever see a psychiatrist or a psychologist or a counselor or a therapist of any kind whatsoever. And so the fact that you are not allowed to criticize Scientology in any Linkin Park forums to fans should be very troubling. So let me bring on the one and only Serge Delmar. Literally, Serge, how are you literally doing?
What's up, guys? Good to see everybody.
Good to see you. Before we get into the chat, let me just show everyone your YouTube channel. For anyone not yet familiar, you can find Serge right here at Serge Delmar. Okay, so, we chatted a little bit offline earlier today. I want to talk about the whole Scientology celebrity auditor thing. And I also just want to talk about the show last night and meeting Jamie and how that went. So how did the show go? Why did you guys go?
Well, I'm glad you're asking me that question, because I've gotten some comments on the videos asking that. Some people were like almost insulted. And my answer has been, we went there to be witnesses. We went there in honor and support of Chester, who for some of us represented Linkin Park. It was a voice. He was a frontman of that. And it's not to take away from any of the other people that comprised it, but as an identity, that was the identity. And we went there to raise awareness. We went there peacefully. We weren't there to create a scene. We were there to witness. We were there to report. We were there to bring our chat with us and for everyone to just see what was going on at the concert. You know, you see the amount of fan base that they have, like the fans that you see. These people are listening to the Linkin Park in their own car, eating a hamburger before they go to the concert. So these are hardcore fans, like people that are so connected to a message, to an art that is like nothing else, right? Because like I can't think of anything else that is so, I don't know, like when we connect with musicians and music, I feel like it transcends as an art form. It kind of transcends a different part of our spirit. So that's what we were there. We were there to see what was going on, to see what's up, and to raise awareness.
Do you personally suspect that Scientology has some greater influence within the band other than just Emily Armstrong being a Scientologist and being in the band? Do you personally suspect either that or that Mike Shinoda is a Scientologist?
Well, I know that they are not anti-Scientology, right? Because according to L. Ron Hubbard, anyone that's anti cannot be on your lines because then you're considered a potential trouble source. So that means he's at least at minimum safe pointed to a point that he's fully compromised, to the point that he's like, oh yeah, whatever you want to do there. So I think that's the only facts that we can point to right now to make this case that there's something doesn't smell right, to your point as you opened with Emily being so, I mean, her mother is the editor of the Freedom Mag. Like no one has waged a bigger war against psychiatry with misinformation that's been put on the public record for decades, right? So all of that is Googleable, all of that is searchable, all of that information is there. And I think that's what we're questioning right now. Like all that information is out there. So if he's not a Scientologist and he's been safe pointed, and the way that Scientology works to safe point and infiltrate celebrity circles, because that's really what the president's office is doing, Aaron. And I don't think that people, even in our chats, we've ever really focused so much on the president's office. It's almost kind of like always in reference, but the president's office had such a pivotal role to play, for example, even in the Danny Masterson situation, right? Because they're the ones that are always a go-between. Like once you're in president lines in Scientology, you have special handlers just assigned to you. Now in Scientology, they pitch this as
Can I ask you a question? Can I just ask you a question real quick? So now you're talking about the president's office of the Celebrity Center, not the president's office of the Church of Scientology International, right?
Well, they have a president's office at Flag, so they have the same one for celebrities, right? And then they have one at Celebrity Center, and then so they have, wherever there is a concentration of people that they have to have special handlers, that's where they go. So there's that's
right. That's right. Europe. There's a president at the Celebrity Center and there's a president at Flag, and I guess if there was enough staff members, there'd probably be a president in every one of the other celebrity centers, but I don't know. Have you ever heard of there being a president at like CC Dusseldorf or CC Paris or anything?
Yes.
Probably, right?
It's a network. They operate as a network, right? Because they're the ones tapped with looking after the celebrities, because that's kind of how it's pitched. Oh, they're just looking after them because they're such VIPs. They're so important. And in Scientology, you really do see that they're all very addicted to this being important. I was talking to someone about this, like you can be an OT8 in Scientology, but if you are in celeb lines on president's office, you're more important. You have a special importance to you. They rather lose the OT8 than lose Riley Keough. They like, you don't influence anyone. You did up to OT8, yeah, but you don't influence anybody. You're just a throwaway. Like right. Scientology cares about the top influencers, really.
So what exactly does it mean to be on president's lines?
So it's anybody that is a celebrity themselves, anybody that's in any type of music, in the fine arts, in any type of position of influence where it gives credence to Scientology, because their endorsement creates this like, oh, well, Tom Cruise and Rebecca Minkoff and Alex Prager and, you know, Emily, all these, they all are people that are influential in their own thing, right? Now, the president's office also, and this was actually reported on by the InSync guy, Lance Bass, on the Meredith show. I just talked about this. Lance Bass says he was brought to Celebrity Center by Leah Remini. He was getting some auditing there. And then he saw, oh, this is just a PR thing that they help you with your next movie, or they connect you with another studio, or they give you this opportunity. So they really are getting hooked up, right? So it is a PR opportunity networking for them when you're on celeb lines. So we're talking about, those are the top influence, but then their families, anybody that's related to them, anybody that gets married to them. Like my sister became on celebrity lines because she was doing things with John Travolta and Nancy Cartwright, right? Like she wasn't a celebrity herself, but because you work with one, now you're in a different category. Now you have, you know, special parking. I mean, literally they go, special parking for them. I mean, the perks are so stupid, but they work for these people in there because, you know, where you park at the Fort Harrison, like it means a lot to the people internal. Like it's weird, but it's just
right.
like this, like.
I feel like what you're describing answers another question that came up earlier about Danny Masterson, which is if you just look at what he actually officially did in Scientology in terms of auditing and training, he didn't really do very much. So people will be like, oh, he wasn't really a dedicated Scientologist. But what that misses is that Danny's involvement on the president's lines is what made Danny an active Scientologist. They don't care if Danny Masterson is doing courses and getting auditing. They care if he's going on Conan O'Brien. They care if he's going to different pressers and premieres. So, but by being a celebrity and working with the president's office, you're doing the job for Scientology that they want you to be doing. They don't really care about the other stuff. When Leah Remini talks about how when she was in Scientology, she was actually doing her courses and auditing on a schedule that would be more similar to a normal public Scientologist. That kind of shows you how dedicated she was, because she could have gotten away without doing that. But she was so dedicated that she sort of did Scientology the way normal Scientologists are expected to do it. But when you have someone like a Danny Masterson, they're more concerned with how is Danny helping Scientology through what he's doing with the president's office. And the same would have to be true with Emily, in my opinion, because, you know, I've been contacted by a lot of people who do personally know Emily, and it doesn't sound like she's the kind of Scientologist who's going in for her courses and auditing, and may not have been for many years now, but she is so intimately connected to Scientology through all of her friend network, through her parents. I mean, her parents are Sea Org members, for the love of God. By the way, her mom, I'm told, actually, Mitch knew Gail Armstrong really well in the Sea Org. He said that she was the editor of the Freedom Mag, but then Mike Rinder also said that she was the PR aide, OSA Int, which is a hell of a lot more important than editor of the Freedom Mag. And then she was promoted to IMPR office, International Marketing and PR. And then she was sent to the Hole, which is the prison that David Miscavige created. And then she was sent to Golden Era Productions, where she's basically a script writer now. So it's funny, in some ways she's been demoted, but she's working in a place that would be a promotion.
Well, and if you really think about it, Aaron, she's an incredible publicist. Gail Armstrong is one of the architects of L. Ron Hubbard's image of Scientology, trying to look itself intellectual because of all the things that they've written about. She knows intimately how the government works. Like, she's not a stupid woman. Like, you see her writing and you see how she twists things, how she spin things, because she doesn't believe anything she's writing. Let's just start with that. Everything she writes, she knows she's lying. Like, when you look at the Freedom magazines and all of this, it's all spin. And they know it. And this is a woman that has access to attorneys, has access to the outside world, right? Because everybody thinks, oh, everyone's in a cult and they're so insulated. But plenty people were not insulated and are not insulated, especially like the president's office, right? Because they're out there. They're going to the concerts. Like, they go to the concerts and then they want to go backstage. They ask to go backstage. Like they would be known to be getting special tickets to go backstage and be there for because again, they're handlers. They are handlers. They have to have their eyeballs on them, and it creates a very infantile relationship with the celebrity, because then they become like these infantile babies, right? That need all these people to do all these things for them.
So explain this for me a little bit. I remember I always, for the longest time, for a number of years now, whenever I hear people publicly talk about celebrities in Scientology having handlers, I get really pissed off, because I go, that's not a real word in Scientology unless I missed it. What is this thing? Where does it come from? Who's doing it?
It's a real world word, which is what we're going to use from now on, because words matter, right? We need to stop grooming our audience into all the terms they taught us in Scientology. We need to find the right words of what it means, because.
But that's what I mean, though. Explain it to me. Like, is
a handler
the person
is just someone that has undoing.
Hold on. So, like, if we're talking about, for example, I always forget which Woodruff it is, but which Woodruff was Leah Remini's handler? Was it Todd or Shane?
I think it was Shane.
So let me ask you this: to the best of your knowledge, was Shane posted in the president's office or the chaplain's office or Div 4? Like, do you have any idea?
I mean, I think they moved them around because, again, you have like your auditors, right? Like your auditor is your handler. Your ethics officer is your handler. And I was just about to tell you something about Emily might not be on course. Emily might not be getting audited. But you know what she does get? Ethics handlings. You know, anytime she gets sick, you know what they will get her? Oh, no, your PTS, you just roller coastered. And actually, I have evidence that I will be talking about in a live coming up of her stating a PTS handling, a full-blown, like, yeah. So and if you think about it, it's like, oh yeah, they have the ethics officer that helps her with her ethics cycles, and who's putting in data on your lines, right? That's the data that they're mining to pull her strings, right? It's like, and that's going back to the infantile relationship. Like, she's got all these mommies around her caring for any kind of problem that she has, right? And again, it's like, the person thinks I'm a very VIP, but you're really just infantile, because you need 10 nannies around you to operate. And but you kind of feel important, because it's kind of like it's your slave crew. It's actually your slave crew, because you don't have to pay president office hours. They're not doing 12.5-hour intensives that you have to pay for that, right? That comes just, you're a celebrity, you're a VIP, you're going to influence people, you get this for free.
Right.
You got hooked
up. Next question. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that even if Mike Shinoda himself may not be a Scientologist, that he and the band, all the members of the band, have most definitely been turned into safe points for Scientology. What does that mean?
So that means that, again, right, it's like part of the BTS technology that Owen Hubbard pitches is to have no one on your lines antagonistic to what you're involved in, your family's involved in. They cannot have a shred of bad thought about it. If they kind of feel like, that's kind of weird that you're doing that, that's kind of weird that you grew up, that's already, she has to go to ethics. She has to figure out how she's going to smooth that out. Now, they said that they've known each other for years, right? So Emily didn't just get hired last week. It's taken how many, 7 years to cement the relationship, to create all. And again, in Scientology, they're always hooking people up with special favors. Oh, we'll give you this for free. We'll give you that for free. Oh, you need this? Like, oh, we'll provide that. Oh, you need English classes? Oh, here's 3 people that will give you English. Oh, you need babysitting? The president's office can go through the entire org board in Scientology and use anyone that they need to do whatever they're doing, because they're senior than anyone else, really. Like Mary Vogeting at Flag, she could tell anyone to do anything. Like, yeah, they knew she was the president. Like, you don't say no to her. So that's that's how they kind of mold themselves in there. It's like, oh, we brought you all this fruit baskets. I mean, OSA 101, bring fruit baskets, bring biscuits, make yourself, oh, look here. And it's all this give with stupid stuff that starts making these people think, well, they're not that bad. They bring me muffins all the time. They're always nice to me. You know, like, why would I have a problem? They always seem really nice. And you know how they get trained. Like, they're so highly aware of how they come across and how they act when they're face front, Sea Org members. react like that, but when they're in the public, they have to act completely like that. And if you act like here, then you get in trouble. So it's like,
right. That's right.
ridiculous.
That's right. Okay, so I don't know why I'm so petty about this. You and I agree that handler is not a word in Scientology, right?
Handler, no, but handle, yes.
Yes, of course, we know. I just wanted to make sure that I'm not I feel like I've been losing my mind the last 7 years because people in the press, when talking about,
no one would say handler. No. Of course, because in Scientology, they're all positive terms, right? Oh, she's the president. That's right. She's the deputy helper for hosting you, and it's like it's all these like positive titles. They would never say handler because that has a negative connotation. That's called Galatz PR. In Scientology, they tell you never Galatz PR. So that means never make anything sound bad about yourself.
So like, for example, Katie Holmes is her handler, at the word that has been used in the press, is someone that you and I know, Jessica Feshbach. I guess she was going by Jessica Davis.
Lena Selva was also one of them. Jessica Feshbach, Lena Selva, Mary Vogeting, like all of these were Katie Holmes handlers.
That's right. And Jessica was her auditor, her sex checker, her auditor.
Right.
And she also magically started sitting next to her in interviews, which was one of the creepiest things I had ever seen. They would go
shopping together. They started to become like almost like friends and fraternizing.
Yeah. So I would suspect, and you know, this could be some actual investigating that we could actually succeed in doing. I would suspect that Emily would have people in her entourage who are actually spying on her for Scientology, just like they had for Lisa Marie Presley, just like they had for John Travolta, just like they had for Tom Cruise. And so for you under the radar guys out there, I'm going to ask you, if you know who's in Emily's entourage, which Scientologists are in Emily's entourage, please let me know at growingupinscientology@gmail.com, because we can sniff this out. We can figure this out.
Well, even her own bandmates, right? Like even them, like Susie and the other guy, like they have to self-report even between them for any ethics cycles. Like they're always reporting on each other. Like even if you don't do the courses, you still write reports. That's free. You don't have to pay for that. And you're using that sort of like as your HR almost. It's almost like the president's office becomes like your de facto HR. You have a problem with someone, go to Susan, go call your handler. Oh, I have a problem. Someone's being mean to me. Oh, okay, come here. What are they doing? Let's help you. Let's help you. And it's always, let's help you. But it's always crossing all these like boundaries that are weird.
Right. See, what I thought was weird is that I can understand sort of whoever's managing Linkin Park's social media platforms. I can understand deleting negative comments about Emily. I mean, some people would disagree with me that that's not okay, but I don't understand deleting negative comments about Scientology. So for the band to take some public position that we are not going to tolerate negative comments about this international human trafficking cult that destroys families and covers up child SA, it is no wonder the fans continue to be outraged about this whole situation. I wanted to ask you specifically, what do you make of the fact that, because I can't, well, okay, what do you make of the fact of Emily being an openly gay woman and still being in Scientology and now having such a high profile? How do you process this?
Celebrity treatment, right? The only people that we know that are gay like that and that are helped by the cult is Catherine Bell and her. I don't think a man, because again, John Travolta, we know he was doing stuff like we were told by Debbie Cook at the hotel. Like literally they would talk about that. Mary Vogeting would talk about that. Richard, you need to write another sec check for John because he's going out 2D with his trainer. He brought a personal trainer with him at Flag and he was, flirting and doing things with him, and that was coming up. And I was hearing all of this because they just talk about that like that, So I think it's because of their stance in being celebrities. Again, they get that special treatment. They're not going in session. They're not going into the audits, but they're getting handling and they're getting the president's office slave team to come to their every, again, to be treated like children, because that's what these celebrities want to be treated like. They want to be treated like children. They cannot make decisions on their own. And they're become so dependent on having to run things by different people. They have different people for different things, right? Like ethics, audits, money handlings, all of this is their entire life is being handled by the president's office.
Yeah. I have observed, and I somewhat understand some of the feedback from some of the Linkin Park fans that are like, we don't understand why this is a big deal. The Scientology connection. And look, if you don't have all the information, I can understand why you don't think it is a big deal. But take it from people who are on the inside. This is one of the biggest victories Scientology has had in a very long time. Having one of their own, whether she's going in every week or month to get auditing her courses, is irrelevant. Having one of their own, a Scientologist in good standing, a Scientologist who was born and raised within the Sea Organization. I mean, she was at the ranch. So I consider those little Sea Org members, whether they were officially Sea Org members or not, to have a huge celebrity. I mean, I saw a huge music channel. I'm going to, will I even be able to find? Oh, yeah. Music, Nick Nocturnal. Nick Nocturnal's a music channel with 1.2 million subscribers. He described Linkin Park as the biggest band in the world. I don't know if that's technically accurate or how you would measure that, but they're certainly one of them. This is one of the biggest victories Scientology has had in a long time. And I really get that a lot of Linkin Park fans don't truly understand why that is. And that's why I think it's important to keep talking about this. If Emily Armstrong was not still a supporter of Scientology, she would just come out and say it. And if people go, well, maybe she doesn't want all that smoke from Scientology, please. But even if she didn't want the Scientology smoke, she could at least actually condemn Danny Masterson instead of giving a mealy-mouthed half non-apology that doesn't even say Danny Masterson and doesn't even acknowledge his victims. So, and
it's the fact that she didn't forward enemy lines on that apology, you guys. It's why we know she's still on president lines, right? Why is Emily gonna let go of, yes, she was abused as a child for the context, right? And we don't wish that on any child. But on the flip side of that today, I mean, she's all very successful, right? Like, she's a success story of Scientology. Oh, look, she grew up at the cadet org and now she's a rock star over here. That means everything in Scientology. Like we said, you can go to OT8 and you can be more worthless or ridiculous. Like, Emily is worth 10 OT8s for them. Not because she's going to go out and tell you to convert. They use her as an influence on the internal to keep people, oh, look, it really does work. I might want to get there, because they're using fame as a lure for all these people, right? That's why Tom Cruise, that's why this. And now they want more younger ones because, you know, like, the new kids don't give an F about Tom Cruise. He's just an old guy at this point. John Travolta doesn't mean anything. So now that we need Sabrina Carpenter looking girl likes, you know, Nancy, can you bring Sabrina over here? Like,
yeah, I was just going to say she's basically the new Tom Cruise, but for young women, or God forbid, for young gay women who could be tricked by Emily Armstrong into thinking Scientology's gay friendly. Maybe they're not. Maybe everything I've heard isn't true. They're using Emily in this PR way that is so destructive. And again, the fans are like, but she hasn't been out there saying this. She's not promoting that. She's not doing this. It doesn't matter.
She would never, you guys, you never wanted to promote it. It's so embarrassing for you to go and promote something as stupid as Scientology. I mean, anytime I was ever asked, the last thing I wanted to talk or tell anyone is like, oh yeah, I was in Scientology. It's like, you're embarrassed. It's disgusting. It's shameful. It's ridiculous. Like, the hotel couldn't have been more stupid. It's like, you don't want to tell people. You don't want people to think you're weird. You want to be normal. You have felt weird your whole life doing this bullshit audits and all this bullshit stuff that is not normal, right? And as a child, you were forced to it. So then you just try to distance yourself. And I did a whole video about this with her being asked about her past. And she's got all these pitches like down, like, oh yeah, I went to a boarding school. Oh yeah, I met Susie in high school. No mention ever that Scientology had anything to do with anything, right? And it's like, because they don't want to talk about it. They're disgusted about it. Nobody wants to pitch that to people that don't know what it is, because it's so hard, Aaron, to convince someone that Scientology is something, because the grooming that needs to happen is so extensive and prolonged. You can't just get it right away. So you really have to be dropping nuggets, like what we're saying about Mike. It's like, how many nuggets has she been dropping around him? How many favors has she been pulling to really just all of a sudden become this figure that is in there, that Scientology could have taken as a PR win, but it's the biggest PR hit they've ever had, because it's something that we're all looking at the hypocrisy of it, right? And they're just trying to be like, how do we look very influential? But they're not. They're so entitled, and again, it's like we're calling on Emily's entitlement, right? Because LGBTQ people in Scientology get abused and told they're degraded unless you become a rock star.
Yeah,
then it's fine.
So Emily's band Dead Sarah was founded with 3 Scientologists: Emily Armstrong, Susie Medley, and Aaron Belcastro. Did you actually know either of these 3 in real life?
Emily, yes, and Susie I just met a couple times, but very superficially.
Okay. Was she ever in the cadet org or staff or the Sea Org or anything?
No, I believe she just had a rich Scientology dad. She was just an LA rich girl. She was always a public.
Aaron Belcastro was a pack rancher. So like he was also a child Sea Org slave. And the fact that the band Dead Sarah was founded by 2 former Scientology child slaves and a rich Scientologist. And I know Aaron Belcastro had left the band, but Susie was still a part of the band. Chris Wadhams, another former Sea Org member, another former child Sea Org member. Like the entire band of Dead Sarah is composed of Scientologists, either public or former child Scientology slaves. To see people constantly being like, but she hasn't said anything publicly about Scientology. Most Scientologists don't. That's not what matters.
And that's what changed too, Aaron, because like back in the 90s, Marty Rathbun, when he was the Deputy Inspector General for Ethics, he was doing a whole ethics mission because people were getting in trouble for not saying you were a Scientologist. They started to consider that PTS. They would tell you, go tell them, go safe pointed, go tell them it's normal, right? But then they just started to see how that would backfire all the time. So then they made a switch in the policy, and then they said, no, don't tell anybody. Like celebrities are kept secret. Nobody needs to know. You just have to be in the president lines to know. So then only certain people, even in Scientology, know who's a Scientologist. And then that becomes like, oh, so you were allowed to know that Penelope Cruz was a Scientologist? Oh, so you're really trusted. So it's all about like, oh, we're at this level where only we are the ones that are in the know because no one else is trusted. You're back down there. It's like, how it's all in echelons.
Yeah, there was some change because I remember, Will Smith and Jada Pinkett Smith were the first 2 people that I became aware of who had permission to deny being Scientologists. And I thought, this is incredible. I've never seen this before. Celebrities are supposed to mention Scientology. Like you said, if a celebrity is not willing to talk about Scientology, that indicates they've gone the effect of some sort of suppression or antagonism. And so, yeah, there was a change to the policy because Will and Jada got away for years with lying about being Scientologists. And what's funny is even when Leah Remini, she had sort of fallen out with them because she mentioned them in her book. And then afterwards, a couple years ago, maybe Leah went on Jada Pinkett's Red Table Talk show. Even then, Will and Jada continued to deny ever having been actual Scientologists. Tisha Campbell has never been honest about being a Scientologist. She played Martin Lawrence's wife on the Martin Lawrence show. We are in this new era where Scientology celebrities aren't expected to talk about it. What you had mentioned to me when we were talking off air earlier about these auditors that were training to go out and visit celebrities in their homes and audit them so that they didn't even have to go into the celebrity center. What can you tell us about that?
Yeah, this was a project that Dave Pettit cooked up with Debbie Cook. He sent his own daughter, Alicia Tinoco. She was married at the time to this guy, Alex Tinoco. His son, who was also gay, Pettit. Do you remember him?
Was it Matt Pettit?
Matt Pettit, yeah.
I remember Matt.
Yeah. So he was also gay, but everybody pretended he wasn't. But again, right, it's like going to that point of Emily, like he's not allowed to be gay. Emily is. He's not. Like he doesn't have the choice to be like, I'm going to be a Scientologist and be doing stuff with guys. Like he is, put to ethics anytime he ever did anything with men, So anyways, but it was his son, his daughter, and then the Moore brothers, Cage Moore and Cody Moore. Very young, good looking. Go ahead.
Okay, so when I was in the Sea Org from 2002 to 2006, the last year that I was at Ash Show, David Petit, who's the commanding officer of the Celebrity Center, his son, Matt Petit, was sent to ASHO, where I was, to be one of our auditors. And it was such a red flag because he's the son, highly trained auditor, very good auditor, the son of the commanding officer of the Celebrity Center. But for some reason, he's not allowed to be an auditor over there anymore. And the reason was because everyone knew he was gay. And you're not allowed to work on celeb lines if you're gay because Scientology doesn't trust gay people.
Well, and I think it's like they really have a problem with men. Like I think with the women, they're more willing to have that. But you're right. I mean, he was called out PR. You are out PR. You're lowering our PR. You're lowering our prestige because you sound gay. I mean, that's how horrific they are, you guys. They say this with a straight face.
Wait, Serge. What do you mean you sound gay? I don't know what you're talking about.
You're out of valence. There's something wrong with you. You're spewing your degradedness into the air. I mean, that's how they pitch it to you. Like, oh, okay.
Wait. Are you telling me gay people have a particular way of speaking?
Literally.
Matt was one of the most obviously gay people, not quite like Joey Chait level, right? But like,
no, they were the same. I would say the same. Like Matt and Joey were just like, they just couldn't help it. Like that's who they were. And no matter how many beatings they got, how much ethics trouble they got, like they wouldn't change. They would do all the punishments, but then they just come out and just continue being the same. And then it would just be another week that someone got mad and then they would get the next punishment. Like you said, he got demoted to another org where he could be more like hidden and where you're not treating celebrities. You understand ASHO. You worked at ASHO and that's what it was more like a come in, come out. Over there at Celebrity Center, it was like
no VIP treatment. No VIP treatment at ASHO. It didn't exist.
No VIP treatment, exactly.
Yeah. Wow. So it is amazing. First of all, David Petit himself does seem to be a deeply closeted gay man. I do not know how he pulls it off. But the fact that his own son
and it was known that he was that, and he would get in trouble himself. Like again, with the executive. Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
I didn't know that.
I mean, again, Aaron, anytime his statistics would go down, remember that's all it is, right? Every Thursday they check your statistic. Oh, you did really great. You made 2 million this week. Then you're great. Then you're wonderful. You crash your stats next week. You're sounding a little gay. Are you masturbating thinking about that? I mean, that's what they would do. I mean, 1 week you're great, and then the next day you're a piece of trash because here you made $2 million, and then you crash your statistic to only make one. So if 1 week you making $2 million, the next week you make 1 million, you're getting investigated, and your gayness is going to be an outpoint that's going to be dealt with that week. Then they deal with it, then they make the statistics go up again. Then they're okay. But then as soon as they go down, they're investigating, they're checking, oh, what's going on here? And it's a vicious cycle of stupidity. I mean,
so when Dave Petit's stats would be down for the week, all of a sudden he'd get a little lispy?
Bingo.
Wow. I got to tell you, I thought it was just something he always got teased about because he's just so kind of effeminate, but it's actually something that would come up in his handlings.
Aaron, remember, they've had so much audits, right? And it's like in the audits as the auditors, and what people don't understand is like when you're the auditor, if they ever had a single experience or thought or anything in relationship to that ever, if you as a child don't get that out of them, you get the worst punishment there is, right? So the audits took hours and hours of excavating thoughts, excavating intentions, excavating all these info about the person, and the person sharing it because they're cleaning is what they get told. Oh, we're going to just clean things. And it's like, but they're asking such specifically worded questions. And that's what's so sick, right? And it's like, even the case supervisors, just to get back at Dave Petit, it's like the CMO messages would be like, Dave Petit has been crashing his statistics, sec check him, write him a really good sec check. And then they would be writing like disgusting, obscene questions, like the most obscene they would get. And then that was considered very tough. Oh, you're being very tough on him. Good. Yes. do that sex check, get all those things answered. And it was all part of the sadistic abuse. Is sick. It's really, really sick.
Wow. Okay, so you got to spend some time with Jamie Bennington last night. If you can say, if you don't mind, does he suspect anyone else in the band is a Scientologist? If you can say.
I mean, we didn't get into that conversation. We were getting to know each other, but I would just have to say that he's such a chill kid. Him and his partner couldn't have been more like grounded and nice. And it reminded me a lot of us. Like, you know, you can tell he's been to hell and back. And he doesn't have a story in Scientology, but he has a story within a pyramid structure of power, celebrity, and egos controlling and manipulating this thing, right? So a lot of abuse parallels, whether you're in Scientology or not, you still end up in these pyramid systems of who's senior than what, and then who controls what part of this part of your life, and all of that. So it was very interesting to kind of like understand that aspect of his life, because I never would have thought about that. But now that I think about it, it's like all these celebrities have a ton of handlers, whether they're in Scientology or not. Like, you know, we know what the handlers in Scientology do. I don't know all that the other ones do. I wouldn't think they do the same thing as Scientology, because they don't do audits or sex checks or any of that. But they're still like, you know, Britney Spears has them. Like all these people have had them. Like Hollywood has been using that since forever, right? It's like, it's not that they don't use it. So, and if you got bad ones on your team, guess what? You're compromised, right? Like that's what I would say. Like, so.
You know, some of Lisa Marie Presley's closest friends were literally tasked with, at the end of the week, and this is when Lisa Marie had already drifted away from Scientology. At the end of the week, sit down and write up a weekly report to the president's office at the Celebrity Center, specifically about what was going on in Lisa Marie Presley's life. You know, who was in her life, who she was spending time with, who she had influence over, who had influence over her. Was she trash talking Scientology? Is she trash talking David Miscavige and all this kind of stuff? This is why it matters. It's not just, is she going in and doing course? It's not, is she out there promoting Scientology in the press? The Celebrity Center, the president's office, is going to use any information they can get about Linkin Park and its band members from Emily or the people in Emily's entourage to figure out how to use the band to their advantage. What cracks in the armor? How can they get in? How can they slide in here? How can they slip in here? Who can they insert into this person's life? They can arrange an introduction to this person. Maybe get this person a Scientologist girlfriend. Maybe get this person a Scientologist assistant. This is how Scientology works. This is why it matters.
Yeah, and it's interesting that you mentioned just about the weekly report and Lisa getting reported on. After I left the Sea Org because of Georgie being so close to Riley, I would go to Lisa's house. But then one week we were told, you can't come to Lisa's house anymore, because somebody had reported us that we had been seen at Lisa's house. And since Lily and I were ex-Sea Org, we had left the Sea Org. Going back to safe pointing, no one that just left the Sea Org. What if Lily and I tell Lisa, oh, they were abusing us, Debbie Cook was screaming at us? Like, Lisa would have literally gone crazy, right? Like, she couldn't handle the kid abuse. Like, we know that was her big button. Like, what she hated about Scientology is how kids were treated, very similar to us, really, because she was treated like that since she was so young, right? So, but I was taken out of her life, and then I always thought, oh, she must have hated me. But it was actually that I had gotten reported to the president's office, and then the president's office intervened, because they're always making sure not get that person off their lines. That's what they call it, you guys.
So that's interesting. So it wasn't even Lisa Marie Presley herself who said you guys weren't welcome there anymore. It was the president's office.
Yeah.
Right.
Oh yeah, the president's office talked to you and told you, oh, you know, you've been going to Lisa's house, and you know, you're ex-Sea Org. You should not be seen at celebrities' lines because you're going to put in theta on their lines. And that's what they call it. And theta. And theta is any negative anything. So again, going back to this infantilism, right? They make Emily infantile. They tell Emily, don't listen to the criticism. Don't listen to anything anyone is saying. They're all crazy. You're correct. You're fine. You're here. And they insulate her in this bubble. So she's like, yeah, no, don't. So it's like, it's horrible. It's horrible when you really see it for what it is. Right? Because theta on your lines, anything negative in your life that's going on, no one can tell you, because you're supposed to not get any negative feedback, right? Any negative feedback is suppression. So everything we're saying there is being misinterpreted to her, because I mean, again, going back to how we thought, right? Like we interpreted that like that. If we would have had people on YouTube saying, Serge and Aaron are Scientologists, it sucks to be them, we would have been like, they're wrong, they're bad. Everything they're saying is of a negative vibe. So therefore, and it's like sometimes the feedback is negative because it needs to be. And that's why, you know, us now being adults, it's like, okay, we're having to tell you things like they are. I know it's going to be hard to hear. It's not what you want to hear. It's unthinkable. It destroyed us, right? And it's like, okay, but here's what we need to confront. Like, there's no going anywhere else from this. Like, we have to see things for what they are, and then, you know, continue exposing all of these corrupt ways that they are misinforming Emily to be a plant, right? Because I think that girl has her own, I mean, I think she connects to that music, but imagine that cognitive dissonance, right? Singing these lyrics when we know she's the victim of what exactly she's talking about, but she can't admit it because she has to be someone else in order to stay with that group that has forced her to believe that she depends on them to be anything, or that she owes it to them somehow because, oh, they've hooked me up so much, right? Who hooked her up with a rich Scientologist dad that could? So she's been given all these favors too to get to where she is. Little does she know that she doesn't owe them shit. Literally, she should cut them out.
Okay, so putting Tom Cruise and John Travolta aside, do you think Emily becoming the lead vocalist for Linkin Park makes her the most famous Scientologist? Or like Nancy Cartwright might be one of the most wealthiest Scientology celebrities, but most people would not recognize Nancy Cartwright's name. You know, a young person would be like, who's that? Elizabeth Moss, Michael Pena, does anyone else, do you think this makes Emily perhaps the most famous Scientologist other than Tom Cruise and John Travolta?
Well, she makes her the most controversial ever, right? Because this controversy is like none other, right? It's like yesterday I was in that live. We had like 1,500 people watching. And what was going on in the live? No more kids in Scientology. Kids cannot consent. Emily singing, but that's the message that's being projected with her. And I think that's a very valid form of protesting, right? Because it's like people are getting the message of what we're protesting, what we don't want anymore. And, you know, I want these people to get on the right side of the street. And yes, we owe them grace and compassion to the degree that we understand just how influenced they are, you know, and I do feel horrible for that, you know, and we can just continue to expose. Going back to the handlers, the mother that's the architect of this propaganda. Like your mother, you know, your mom reading the Freedom magazine, Aaron, that's the beginning of how they indoctrinated them to be conspiratorial, them to adopt not their viewpoints, right? Because our parents couldn't, they just were feeding whatever was fed to them, they adopted, right? And it's like, that's why our entire community is sick, you guys, because everyone's been fed misinformation. They've all been forced to adopt it. They can't have a critical thought for themselves. They criminalize that. I mean, even with Emily, right? If she thinks her mom is bad, then she thinks she's so it's like, it's that disgusting wheel of complete horrible abuse. And, you know, this is making her the one that, you know, all the attention is on, all eyes on you now. That's what I would say. You know, with Tom Cruise, they give him a pass because he's not singing lyrics to talk about abuse. And his mom didn't come up with all the architecture of the language of psychiatry and mental health is a fraud. Like you can't have those connections and sing because the out integrity is just so egregious. Had they done a new band, Aaron, had they said, we're doing new songs, like it was that Sarah, right? We didn't like her. We thought it was okay, but she's doing her. Like we can't just But this is going to another place. And, you know, Scientology forcing it to happen for their own ulterior motives has backfired on them now, because they never thought it possible that it could go like this. And, you know, they're just saying, oh yeah, let's just delete the comments and that's really going to help something. I mean, please, like, you know, we're in a new era where crisis management doesn't work like that. The more you delete, the more we know. Every comment deleted, we know that you're just.
It's true. It does fan the flames a bit. Like, you can delete those comments. It's not deleting the sentiment and the outrage that's behind and fueling those comments. And, you know, it is interesting on our end to try to find that right balance between using this as an opportunity to criticize Scientology, shine a light on the abusive policies and practices of Scientology, to also, and on the other hand, to almost root for Emily to leave Scientology. Like, you can do it, Emily. This is your chance to use your new huge platform for something that would be unbelievably powerful.
You live that abusive childhood. Like, when you sing those songs, that's what I would say about her, right? It's like, I have no criticism or feedback to give on her performance. There's only an out integrity point that goes with actually giving that art to the people. And that's what's being called out, right? Is that incongruence. And again, it's an adult conversation. It's constructive criticism for you, Emily, because again, this is not to tear you down. This is not because we want you to get booted out and canceled. No, like, you are in a position of power on your own. You don't need your handlers. Fire them all. Get rid of them all. Shine on your own. Stand on your own. Don't listen to anyone for the next 3 years. That's what it takes to leave a cult. You've got to cut everyone out, because they don't have your back. None of them have your back, from your own mother that put you in harm's way as a child. Like, she's never had your back. No matter how much she tells you, oh yeah, I really want to root for you and want to make you, you know, again, going back to, like, they say, oh, she has a close relationship because her mom rooted for her to be a lesbian, right? Imagine how much that weighs on her. Oh, my mom went so much out of her way to make sure that I had it okay. So I can't really be that mad at her. But at the end of the day, you can, Emily, because your mom, again, is like, you have to look at the context of who your mom became. A woman that knew that she was lying. Like, our parents were different, Maren. They bought the propaganda. But there's people that wrote the propaganda. And, you know, those are the ones that are monsters, because they knew. They don't go, oh, well, L. Ron Hubbard did tell me. No, that's bullshit. You knew it was bullshit. You just knew what you were pitching and how you were crafting it so you could have the effect that you were trying to get from that. And that's being called out today.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I don't want Emily to be canceled. I don't want her to be fired. I want her to use this as a huge opportunity to stand up for victims of Scientology abuse. And I want her to not let Scientology use her as a propaganda tool for their own benefit, which they will do as long as she stays silent.
Which they're doing right now as we speak, you guys. Like, again, it's like all of you that go, oh, but you don't know. We know how these people work. We saw it with our own 2 eyes. We couldn't be more highly aware. We're the experts at it, not by choice. And that's what we're talking about here. We never in our wildest dreams wish any of this on our worst enemy.
Yeah.
Like, we don't want these dynamics to play out like this. We know how it ends. We know how destructive it is. And it's not going to change if it doesn't change.
Right. I'm just seeing in the comments something that did occur to me yesterday. A little strange to plan the first concert of a huge comeback tour on 9/11. Well, I don't know why the hell they did that. But, you know, one of the biggest pieces of propaganda that they will use Emily for is, look at how gay-friendly Scientology is. One of the most famous Scientologists in the world now is gay. It's interesting that they can't quite make the same argument for John, because they insist on John being in the closet, and John insists on being in the closet. But that's why Emily is something Scientology has never had before. A truly high-profile, famous member who's openly gay. Scientology is going to run with that all day long.
Yeah, well, and again, it's a slap in the face for all of us LGBTQ that didn't have a mother that worked out that special privilege. And again, it's like, that's why she's been called a Nepo baby, right? Because it's like, you had a high-ranking mother. For everyone that goes, oh, Jenna really had it special, Jenna's mom never pulled the strings that Emily's mom is pulling for her. Going back to Gail Armstrong is a publicist. She calculates, she lands. They want power, they want influence, they want money, they want to open doors, they want to use branding to be next to it. So they're like, well, no, we're with these people. They're all very great. So, you know, and that's what's being called out is that entitlement. We know how many LGBTQ people there are suffering, and you're not suffering, Emily, and that's not your fault. That's not on you, but it's on you to denounce it because you recognize that privilege. You go, oh, I don't have it like this, but they are having it like that. And it's up to you to then stand out for us that were abused. If you're not getting abused for that, then that's great, but consider yourself privileged. And then actually act on that privilege from that awareness and go, oh, you know, they don't have it like me. And no other kids should be lured because I'm not a success of Scientology. I don't even use Scientology. You know, I'm using their president's office to do me favors, but, you know, I don't even want to do this shit, right? It's like she just wants to do what she wants to do, which is sing. She just wants to do that, right? But it comes with all of these other parts of herself.
Well, that's a perfect example, I think, of what you mentioned of the integrity problem. Is why would someone like Emily, who lives her life as an openly gay woman, want Scientology to be able to use her to trick and convince other young gay people to join an organization that looks down on gay people and thinks there's something wrong with them? That's where we're talking about integrity. If Emily were to at least say, "Hey, I grew up in Scientology; those are my homies. My folks are still Scientologists. I respect everyone's religious beliefs, but I'm not involved anymore," then at least Scientology couldn't use her. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But I mean, I think
I'm not saying it would be good enough, but I'm saying it'd be bare minimum.
I think we're just, you know, as we continue on this journey of advocacy, Aaron, this journey just comes for a reconciliation of the truth and the facts. And again, the facts is not projecting on Emily. We're giving you the context, right? It's not, let's find all this dirt to cancel you. We're giving you context so that you can make a better informed decision as an adult today. And we're actually looking for your best interest, because it is in your best interest to denounce all of that abuse. It was never good for you anyways. And like we said, you can shine on your own. We have no doubt of that. No one can question that. And you can be a light and a beacon of hope for all of us, because when you sing those songs that mean so much to all of us that were abused like as such, we will have a connection. There's no doubt that we could have that connection. Right now, we cannot have that connection because there's an out integrity situation that's getting called out. And the sooner we can move and evolve with that, then we would all be well served, right? Like this can be a positive for everyone collectively. Yeah. But it's just going to require to actually admit it and to humble all of us, right? It's like, just, you know, you have no ego to protect. This wasn't your fault. At the end of the day, again, like we have a lot of shame for having been grown in Scientology, you guys. Like, I'm always disgusted for whatever was done with my childhood there. I am sickened by it, but it was not our fault. We didn't choose it. We couldn't have chosen it. And now on the flip side, all we can do is advocate, because, you know, we never had advocates there making these points we're making today. How many decades has it taken us for us to even be able to make these points, right? Nobody advocated for us when we were there. When we were there, adults were saying, bring more kids, bring more kids, bring more kids. It's taken how many decades to go, don't bring a single MF kid anymore. That's it. That's that simple. If the adults want to be there, and I've said this a million times too, Aaron, 21 and up, you want to be there, go for it. Get wherever level you want to get to, whatever. Just as long as the 21 and under aren't touched. And you make it a 21 and up with a card, with an ID to get into the sandcastle, with an ID to get into the Fort Harrison. If you got show ID, then great. You're in, and then you can do whatever.
I agree. We got a handful of comments here that we'll tackle. And before we do, let me remind everybody you can find Serge on YouTube at his channel right here, Serge Del Mar. Okay, we have Steelers Princess. Thank you for becoming a channel member. We have Ben Bacon Bits. Your moderators are awesome, like key lime pie. I agree. Good to see you, Ben Bacon Bits. U3M6, Neil Gaiman's Coraline had grossed $124 million in release by Monday. I wanted to ask you both, do you have any thoughts since the proceeds are likely going towards Scientology and the Clearwater takeover? I definitely have been planning on doing a Neil Gaiman video for quite some weeks now, but one of the reasons I don't is I just don't know an awful lot about him, except that he used to be the executive director of the Birmingham Scientology organization, which is amazing because he kind of acts like he was never a Scientologist.
Yeah. Going back to the point, right? They tell them don't tell because it's now bad PR, right? It's like going back to like they're running crisis management 24/7. That's what it's called, right? They're always calculating what, and then anything negative, they're always trying to get on top of it. So with Neil, yes, distance, and then still support.
Yeah. Tails7 says, it's funny how Rob and Brad, both Christian and Jewish from very religious families, pulled out of the band. Is Brad, is he the guitarist? Is he the one who's still going to do studio work, but he's not touring? Was Rob the drummer who quit and Brad is just not touring, if I'm not mistaken, but sometimes I get the names mixed up.
Yeah.
Ken's channel says, it's been said before, but Emily is a direct disrespect to what happened with Chester. It's just a body drop to them. It's true. Joe Buchanan, do we know the name? Do we know where the name Dead Sarah comes from? Is there a meaning behind it? I've always wondered this and I've never known the answer. Do you know anything about this, Serge?
I don't.
Okay. Jeffrey Augustine is here. In my opinion, OSA would want to create a rift between Linkin Park fans and the anti-Scientologist movement. Watch for Mike Shinoda to make a statement defending Emily's right to practice her religion. That's a good point. AEFGVWY. All right. Linkin Park rehearsals, February 2000 at 2:50. Brad was talking about how they moved to a new place to practice and such. And at 3, it shows the Scientology building. I'm going to have to check that out. Yeah, if you can email me a link to the video you're talking about it, growing up in Scientology at gmail.com. Okay, Amy, SPTV Hall Monitor. Serge, I'm still impressed that Emily didn't have to leave the venue when you walked in with all of your SP powers. Ben Bacon Bits, I wonder how much of this was Warner Records executives wanting to get a band producing again. Beachcomber, thank you for gifting 5 channel memberships. Susan Pendleton, Rob was the drummer and Brad is the guitarist. Yes, I'll tell you, I have not gotten more hate from Linkin Park fans than for the video I did about the article about the guitarist leaving the tour. All I did was report what was in the article. Apparently, the article was wrong. He had already announced way before that he was not going to be joining the tour. I apologize, guys. That's why I said in my video yesterday, when I'm doing videos about articles that are about Scientology, I know what's bullshit and what's not bullshit. If I read an article about Linkin Park, I don't actually know what's bullshit or not because I don't know anything about Linkin Park other than what I'm learning on the fly because of the whole Emily Armstrong thing.
Because you grew up in a cult.
I grew up in a cult. Pedalboard, is the Limp Bizkit crew Scientologists? Fred did a shout out to Tom Cruise last year during a concert, and they did the Mission Impossible 2 theme. Fred also directed a movie with John Travolta. That's right. Well, look, if Fred's a Scientologist,
you guys, at least we can report they've been safe pointed. So
I feel like anyone who ever does a movie with Tom Cruise these days has been safe pointed and checked for any SP connections or any, past antagonism to Scientology. So, yeah, if Fred's not a Scientologist, he's at least a safe point for Scientology.
He's not an SP. He's been vetted, not an SP.
That's right. Not an SP. Ben Bacon Bits, the name of the alt-rock band, Dead Sarah, comes from a misheard lyric in the Fleetwood Mac song, Sarah. The band members thought the lyric said Sarah was Dead Sarah. Okay. Pink Skies says, love seeing you and Serge together. Thank you so much, Pink Skies. And thank you for being a 5-month channel member. And Lori Plays says, I have that video pulled up. Excellent. Well, I hope someone will send me a link to it. All right, guys, this has been great. Thanks for doing this with me, Serge. I really appreciate it. One less shout out for Serge's channel here. Serge Delmar. Subscribe to him if you have not yet already. And that's it for us, guys. Talk to you soon.
Okay, if you want to see my rock and roll songs, click right on this guitar. And if you want to see a different one of my videos, then you could click right